Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are charting what might just be the most aggressive investment surge we've seen in modern history, maybe outside of foundational AI models themselves. We're talking about artificial intelligence in healthcare. It's a sector that has become, well, arguably the golden ticket for venture capital. It promises to solve these huge trillion-dollar problems in medicine.
Yeah, it's definitely more than just a surge. I'd say it's a structural pivot, really. We're seeing this real institutional conviction that AI is the definitive engine that's going to overhaul how we discover, develop, and deliver patient care globally.
Right.
And when you look at the capital flowing in, the story isn't just about making things a little better. It's pointing towards, radical change.
And we absolutely have to ground this conversation in the numbers because, honestly, the scale is just staggering. When you add up all the capital that's flowed into these AI healthcare startups over the past decade, we are looking at a jaw-dropping USD 60 billion.
60 billion. And, that headline figure, it only tells part of the story. If you actually look at the timeline, it's the acceleration that's really grabbing investors' attention.
Exactly.
Half of that total, so USD 30 billion, was invested in just the last 3 years. That's not linear growth. It's exponential. It feels like a generational shift, and it's clearly driven by these generative AI tools finally becoming commercially mature.
And that momentum is still building, isn't it? I mean, PitchBook data confirms that in 2024 alone, these startups pulled in USD 10.5 billion across 511 deals.
Wow.
That signals VCs aren't just dipping their toes in. They're writing these massive 9, even 10-figure checks. They're betting big on the future of medically applied AI.
Yeah, and what's also clear from the sources is this investment isn't just happening randomly everywhere. There are these distinct geographic centers of gravity driving the boom.
Like where?
Well, North America is still the main hub. It's fueled by that really deep-rooted, mature biotech ecosystem they have, plus, unparalleled access to venture capital.
And critically, that private capital gets support from massive government intervention and research funding too, right?
Absolutely.
The U.S. government, for example, has been a key player. I remember reading they invested, $1.7 billion back in 2021, specifically for genomics and AI research.
That's right. And that kind of public money, it basically de-risks the really early stage science. It helps accelerate its journey towards commercial viability, which, VCs just love to see.
Makes sense. Public money paves the way for private investment.
Precisely. But it's important to note, this isn't purely a Western story. The Asia-Pacific region is accelerating incredibly fast, too. Countries like China and India, they're launching these detailed national AI strategies. They're specifically aimed at boosting drug discovery, building these huge domestic health data platforms. It signals they really intend to become global leaders in applied medical AI.
Okay, so if you're charting this landscape with us today, our mission is to really move past those huge headline numbers and unpack the specific, almost irresistible drivers making this investment happen right now.
Yeah, we want to offer insight into the mechanisms of the transformation. What is AI actually doing in the lab and the clinic, not just the big picture idea?
Let's get into it then.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. Why specifically $60 billion flowing into this niche? I mean, it seems to come down to AI being maybe the only practical solution right now to 4 massive industry pain points. Problems that have been, frankly, choking healthcare innovation for decades.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And the first one, probably the most commercially attractive driver, is the promise of faster and cheaper drug discovery.
Right. The old way is just painful.
It's a slow-motion disaster, honestly. Bringing a single successful drug to market takes, on average, 14.6 years and costs like around $2.6 billion. That timeline, that cost, it's just unacceptable in the 21st century.
And that's what AI attacks directly, that massive cost and time sink. You look at a startup like Exponential, they use their platform, Centaur Chemist, I think it's called, to design a cancer drug that hit clinical trials in just 12 months.
12 months. That's
Compressing maybe 5 or 6 years of really laborious preclinical work down to 1. The economic impact of that kind of speed up is, well, it's revolutionary.
It totally changes the return on investment calculation for pharmaceutical companies. It transforms R&D from what was essentially a high-risk lottery, where most molecules just fail, into something more predictable, more data-driven.
And the market sees that potential.
Oh, definitely. The market is paying attention. That's why the AI and drug discovery sector is predicted to grow at this massive 37.67% CAGR through 2032. Investors are essentially betting that this compression of time and cost will just yield far more successful drugs in the coming decade.
And that shift in R&D strategy links directly to the second big driver, doesn't it? The sort of unstoppable momentum behind personalized medicine.
Exactly. This isn't just a buzzword anymore. It really is the future, where treatments are tailored precisely to an individual's unique genetic code, their health history, their current biomarkers.
But why is AI so essential there? Why can't we do that already?
Well, because personalized medicine requires processing just vast amounts of incredibly diverse data. We're talking petabytes of genomic sequencing, electronic health records, medical imaging, lifestyle factors. Humans simply cannot compute all those intersecting variables at the scale needed.
Too much information.
Way too much. So startups like Genomic DAO or ExactCure, they're pioneering this space by using AI to interpret this really complex individual data. It allows clinicians to finally move away from those one-size-fits-all treatments towards something much more precise.
And the market projections seem to back this up big time. The AI and precision medicine market, valued at just over $1 billion in 2024, is projected to soar to over $10 billion by 2032.
$10 billion.
That's a compound annual growth rate of over 33%. I mean, this kind of high-impact, scalable application is exactly what venture capital looks for when they're chasing those exponential returns.
Right. And then the third driver, this provides a kind of external validation for the whole sector, big pharma partnerships and acquisitions.
This is the proof it's not just hype.
Exactly. This is the ultimate proof that AI isn't some fleeting trend. When the established giants start integrating AI, it proves the technology is now a necessity. It's a competitive requirement, not just some optional luxury tool.
And we've seen major examples proving this integration is happening now. Bayer, for instance, they're collaborating extensively with AI firms for target identification in cancer and heart disease. Pfizer has been leveraging IBM's Watson platform for years now to get more R&D efficiency. These partnerships are basically big pharma using their huge budgets to, well, essentially outsource their next generation of core R&D capability.
And it goes beyond just partnerships now into really aggressive mergers and acquisitions. The sources highlight things like Sanofi's acquisition of Immunix Pharmaceuticals.
Right.
This isn't just collaboration. This is big pharma basically saying, look, we can't build this capability fast enough internally, so we must acquire these AI-first companies and just fold their methodology into our existing structure. That signals immediate necessary integration.
Okay, so finally, the fourth driver seems to be this combination of favorable market growth and a somewhat supportive regulatory climate. Investors need to see a path to actually selling these things, right?
Absolutely. When you're committing billions, you need a clear path to market. The broader market for, say, AI and diagnostics is set to grow from about $1.6 billion in 2024 to over $8 billion by 2032. That shows there's robust global demand.
And the regulators aren't completely blocking the path.
Well, critically, North America's regulatory environment, particularly the FDA, is trying to process approvals for AI-powered medical devices relatively quickly. It's still complex, no doubt, but it gives investors enough confidence.
They see a pathway.
They see a supportive, though definitely complex, pathway to commercialization. And that's crucial for funding these clinical stage applications. If the regulatory path was totally opaque or actively hostile, none of this capital would be flowing in. Simple as that.
Okay, so to really grasp the depth of this investment, I think we need to focus on the tangible mechanisms, like how is AI actually changing the process, not just the concept? The drug development lifecycle is fundamentally being rewritten by AI, specifically targeting those core processes that, as we said, just take too long and cost way too much money.
Right. Let's start at the very beginning, which is often the biggest bottleneck. Accelerating target identification and molecular design. You know, traditional research relies on screening massive chemical libraries, tons of laborious trial and error.
Exactly. And AI just eliminates huge swaths of that guesswork. It can rapidly evaluate billions of potential drug-target interactions, analyze complex disease mechanisms.
And this is where generative AI has had probably the most immediate and profound impact, isn't it? Models like AlphaFold from DeepMind. Oh, absolutely. AlphaFold has revolutionized the field. It can predict the complex three-dimensional structure of a protein with almost experimental accuracy. Specifically, they achieved a median backbone accuracy of 0.96 angstroms.
Okay, wait, let's pause on that number, 0.96 AO. Why is that specific metric so incredibly important? What does it mean practically?
Well, it's crucial because if you can predict a protein structure that accurately, you know exactly what shape of the molecule you need to design to interact with it, maybe to activate it, maybe inhibit it.
Like finding the keyhole shape.
Precisely. And to put 0.96a in perspective, it means the AI is predicting the structure with an accuracy only slightly worse than what a massive, expensive physical lab experiment using, say, X-ray crystallography or cryo-EM could produce. But the AI does it in minutes, not months or years.
That is the definition of a force multiplier.
Yeah.
Just incredible speed. And the innovation isn't standing still, right? I read about newer models, like Genie.
Yes, Genie and others are going even further than AlphaFold. They aren't just predicting existing protein structures, they're actually designing entirely new proteins that don't exist in nature.
Wow.
Which opens up completely new possibilities for custom-engineered therapeutics, synthetic biology applications. It's really pushing the boundaries.
And the data backs this up. The savings are real.
They seem to be.
Yeah.
The sources suggest AI-enabled workflows can potentially save up to 40% of the time and 30% of the costs just in bringing a new molecule to the preclinical candidate stage. That compression alone, honestly, justifies the billion-dollar valuations we're starting to see.
Okay, so moving past that initial discovery phase, AI is also optimizing the historically rigid and expensive world of clinical trials and data analysis. This is where the financial stakes get even higher, isn't it?
Exactly. Patient recruitment, for instance, is notoriously difficult. It is. And this delay pushes back trial timelines and costs billions across the industry. This is where AI tools are really built to thrive. They can analyze these vast electronic health records, EHRs, those digitized patient files.
Using systems like TrialGPT.
Right, systems like that. They can quickly identify thousands of potentially eligible participants across multiple clinical centers, sometimes globally. That speed is just indispensable.
And it's not just about finding patients faster, is it? It's about smarter trials, too.
Yes, it's also about dynamic, intelligent trial design. AI uses real-world data, RWD. This is aggregated data from patient registries, wearables, insurance claims, that kind of thing, to help refine inclusion criteria, maybe even make the trial design adaptive based on early results, and potentially cut the overall duration of a clinical trial by up to 10%.
10% doesn't sound huge, but on a multi-year billion-dollar trial.
It's massive. By reducing time, reducing failure rates due to recruitment, and optimizing the patient cohorts, the financial impact is huge. We're potentially looking at savings of up to $25 billion in clinical development costs alone, just through AI involvement.
$25 billion. Okay, when Big Pharma sees that number, they don't see an option. They see a necessity. They have to adopt this.
Pretty much. And finally, AI is tackling the sort of less glamorous but still crucial parts of the process through intelligent automation in manufacturing and logistics. Drug manufacturing is complex, highly regulated, and very prone to costly downtime.
Right, you've got these massive physical plants, bioreactors.
Exactly. But AI introduces a new level of precision. It can analyze sensor data for predictive maintenance, identifying potential machine failures in those complex fermentation or purification facilities before they cause catastrophic days-long shutdowns.
Preventing problems before they happen.
Exactly. But maybe the most innovative application here is the use of digital twins.
Okay, what are those exactly?
These are essentially virtual, simulated models of the manufacturing processes, or even of specific patient cohorts within a trial. This allows for risk-free simulation and optimization before you commit real resources.
Give me an example.
Well, the startup Unlearn, for instance, used digital twins in an Alzheimer's study. They were able to reduce the number of actual human participants required by 35% in the control arms and 21% overall just by using these simulated patients.
That is profound. Reducing the number of human participants needed speeds up the whole timeline and drastically cuts costs.
Yeah.
And I guess there's an ethical benefit, too.
There absolutely is. Plus, you have intelligent automation in logistics, like Pfizer's use of AI, to streamline their really complex temperature-controlled supply chains for vaccines and other biologics. It reduces human errors, ensures product integrity, boosts overall efficiency. It touches every part of the chain.
Okay, this is where it gets, I think, really interesting for people listening. AI isn't just stuck in these complex, multi-billion-dollar R&D pipelines that feel far removed from everyday patient care. It's actually radically changing what happens at the doctor's office, in the pathology labs, even in the hands of the patient at home.
Yeah, the most immediate clinical impact is definitely in AI in diagnostics and early detection. AI's core strength here is its ability to detect these subtle, often invisible patterns in medical images, in genetic sequencing data, in biomarkers, often faster and more consistently than the human eye or brain can manage.
And that's a massive leap forward, especially for things like cancer detection.
Absolutely. And you see enormous capital backing the pioneers in this diagnostic space. Take Freenome. They've raised a really impressive $1.35 billion in total funding.
Wow. What do they do?
They use what's called a multi-omics platform, basically combining different types of biological data to detect early-stage colorectal cancer through a simple blood test.
Multi-omics. Let's break that down quickly. What does that mean?
Right, so it means that AI isn't just looking at one type of data, like maybe just DNA mutations. It's integrating genomics, DNA, transcriptomics, which genes are active, looking at RNA, proteomics, what proteins are being expressed. It's looking for multiple biological signals of cancer all at the same time.
So it gets a much richer picture.
Exactly. Freenome's ability to combine those different signals using AI gives them the accuracy needed to potentially replace or supplement more invasive procedures like colonoscopies, especially for screening.
Then you have companies focus more on image analysis, which seems like another area just ripe for AI disruption. Page AI, they've got over $225 million in funding. They focus on analyzing pathology slides, right? Looking for cancer diagnosis. And Path AI, which raised $255 million, also develops AI-powered pathology tools. These companies must be gold mines for investors because they can drastically cut diagnostic times and potentially reduce human error in reading those slides.
Yeah, the potential for efficiency and accuracy gains is huge. A fantastic, very specific example is the UK's National Health Service, the NHS. They're using an AI tool called DERM for assessing skin lesions.
Okay.
It analyzes images of moles and other spots and achieves a remarkable 99.9% accuracy rate in ruling out melanoma.
99.9%.
Right. That means it can safely triage huge numbers of patients, letting the human dermatologists focus their limited time only on the most complicated, ambiguous cases that really need their expertise.
Incredible efficiency gain. Now, moving to another really critical area, AI seems to offer incredibly scalable, immediate solutions for the global mental health crisis. Access to care there is often a huge problem.
It's an area desperately in need of infrastructure solutions, frankly. The market reflects that need. It's projected to reach almost $12 billion by 2034. That's a rapid CAGR of over 24%. The demand is just acute.
So what are some examples?
Well, Wysa, they're a Boston-based startup. They offer an AI chatbot that uses cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, techniques. They've raised over $30 million. It provides immediate 247 non-judgmental support, where human therapists might be scarce, expensive, or just have long waiting lists.
And the power of AI can also be in matching patients to the right care more quickly, right? I saw Spring Health raised $100 million in a Series E recently.
That's right, September 2024. That round valued them at a pretty robust $3.3 billion.
And what's their AI angle?
They use AI to analyze patient intake data questionnaires, maybe initial assessments, and then match them with personalized mental health plans and the most suitable therapists or programs for their specific needs. The goal is to ensure people get the most effective intervention much sooner than the traditional trial and error approach.
That makes sense. And what about early detection? Can AI help there too?
Yeah, the potential for passive early detection is advancing rapidly. There's a company called Kintsugi Health. They've secured $20 million. They're working on detecting indicators of depression just by analyzing subtle shifts in voice biomarkers during a normal conversation.
From your voice.
From your voice patterns. This could potentially move mental health screening out of just formal questionnaires and maybe integrate it more seamlessly into everyday interactions or telehealth calls.
Fascinating. Okay, finally, AI is tackling that crushing, costly burden of clinical workflow and patient engagement. This isn't strictly clinical diagnosis, but it might have one of the most immediate impacts on physician burnout.
Oh, absolutely. The pain point here is monumental. Studies show clinicians can spend up to 1/3 of their entire workday just on charting, documentation, and other administrative tasks.
1/3 of their day. That's time completely wasted that could be spent actually talking to patients or thinking about their cases.
Exactly. And that's what startups like Camure are trying to solve. They have this ambient AI solution. It basically acts as a self-service scribe. It passively listens to the patient-physician conversation.
In the room.
Yeah, or during a telehealth call, with consent, obviously. And it autonomously generates the clinical notes afterwards. They claim it has reduced the average night closing time to just 43 seconds.
43 seconds, compared to what, maybe 10, 15 minutes of manual typing after each visit?
Easily, that reduction cuts clinical documentation time by a staggering 81%, according to their data. That 43 seconds versus potentially 15 minutes per patient. Think about the impact on physician burnout alone. This isn't just about cost savings, it's about making the practice of medicine potentially sustainable again for doctors.
It really could be. And the benefits can extend beyond the clinic walls, too.
Definitely. Look at Hippocratic AI. They use these specialized clinical AI assistants to conduct complex remote patient monitoring calls and manage large-scale outreach programs.
Like checking in on patients at home.
Exactly. The sources highlight one instance where they successfully coordinated outreach to 100,000 patients in a single day during a hurricane in Florida. That demonstrates this incredible scalable, potentially life-saving administrative capacity, especially during a crisis.
That administrative automation piece feels huge for the system's bottom line. Automating tasks like scheduling, billing, prior authorizations, documentation. The estimates suggest it could save the U.S. healthcare industry up to $20 billion annually.
$20 billion a year, that's the size of a small country's GDP saved just by applying smart software to paperwork. You can absolutely see why investors are keen on this space. It's high impact with massive immediate cost-saving potential. Okay, so let's maybe shift focus now specifically to the names and the valuations that really demonstrate this investor confidence in the maturity of the technology. These are the companies moving from being promising platforms to becoming established, often billion-dollar entities, frequently leveraging generative AI for entirely new capabilities.
Right, the headline grabber this year, I think, has to be Zaire Therapeutics. They just launched in 2024 and secured this absolutely massive $1 billion Series A round.
1 billion, Series A.
Yeah, led by top firms like ARCH Venture Partners and Foresight Capital. That staggering figure is just a massive vote of confidence. It signals that investors really believe Zaire can potentially bypass years of traditional R&D delays by using a platform approach, heavily based on AI, to accelerate drug discovery for really complex diseases like cancer.
And they're far from alone in that discovery space, are they? Insilico Medicine also secured $100 million in a Series E for its AI-driven R&D, combining deep learning with drug design. And then we have Tempus AI, which recently went public.
Right, the IPO. And they're valued at, what, $11 billion?
Roughly, yeah. Post-IPO valuation around $11 billion.
Why is Tempus valued so highly? What makes them worth that much? They aren't just a software company, are they?
No, not just software. They built their entire competitive advantage, their moat, as investors call it, on data. They aggressively aggregated and, crucially, normalized these massive proprietary data sets. We're talking clinical information, molecular data like genomics, imaging data collected from healthcare systems.
So they cleaned up the messy data we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
Huh.
They are selling the intelligence derived from those unique, cleaned-up data sets, not just selling the software itself. They essentially created the data moat that everyone else in the space now wants to replicate. They solved the hardest problem first, the data problem.
Got it. They're the billion-dollar babies of this boon, really setting the standard for what a modern AI-first pharma platform needs to look like.
Pretty much. But beyond these huge titans, there's this whole ecosystem of innovation emerging in the, let's call it, the new wave of 2025 startups. Take OpenEvidence. They're a Sequoia-backed AI medical assistant. They were rapidly valued at $3 billion in 2025 after a funding round of over $100 million. Their focus is different. It's about delivering real-time, evidence-based insights directly to the clinician, right at the point of care during a patient visit, helping with diagnosis or treatment options on the spot.
And the innovation is global, too, not just U.S.-based.
Oh, yeah, definitely diverse. There's a Swiss startup called Eon. They're trying to redefine preventative care. They offer this comprehensive 60-minute checkup that integrates AI-driven analysis of full-body MRI scans, biomarkers from blood tests, and genetics. They just raised an $8.2 million double seed round in 2025.
So focusing on prevention, not just treatment.
Exactly. This focus on proactive, highly personalized preventative diagnostics powered by AI is really attractive to investors who see prevention as ultimately far more scalable and cost-effective than waiting for diseases to become advanced.
And solving bottlenecks further down the pipeline is still crucial, as Intrepid Labs in Toronto mentioned.
Yes, Intrepid Labs. They use their Valiant platform. It combines AI with robotics specifically to slash drug formulation timelines. That's the crucial step of figuring out how to actually package and deliver a drug molecule safely and effectively in a pill or injection.
Okay.
They claim they can cut that process down from months to potentially just days.
Wow, another major time saver.
Hmm.
Then there are companies taking what you might call an AI maximalist view, right? Like Convexia, a Y Combinator startup.
Yeah, AI maximalist is a good term for them. They're aiming to use AI agents, basically automated software programs, for the entire drug development lifecycle.
The whole thing.
Pretty much. From sourcing overlooked preclinical drug candidates that maybe failed elsewhere for the wrong reasons, to running complex computational simulations instead of early lab tests, all the way to building out the clinical trial plans for phase 1. Their claim is that they can be like 10 times faster and maybe 20 times leaner than traditional pharma companies because they automate nearly every non-essential human step.
That's a bold claim. Now, it's important to remember, Big Pharma isn't just sitting still and watching these startups disrupt everything, are they? They're adopting these techniques internally, too.
Oh, absolutely not sitting still. Roche, through its Genentech arm, for instance, was ranked highest on the 2023 Statista AI Readiness Index among major pharma companies. They are heavily invested.
And they have this concept, the lab in a loop. What is that?
Right, the lab in a loop, it's their core mechanism for integrating AI deeply. It's not just a linear R&D pipeline anymore, it's a continuous iterative learning process. Data generated from their lab experiments and clinical trials is used to train AI models.
Okay.
Those AI models then predict new potential drug targets or molecule designs. Those predictions are then immediately tested experimentally back in the lab. That generates new data, which then retrains the AI models, making them smarter.
So it creates this virtuous self-correcting cycle.
Exactly, a cycle of accelerated discovery. It ensures that AI isn't just a tool they use sometimes. It's now the essential, constantly improving bedrock of R&D for the biggest players globally. They have to do it to compete.
So, okay, what does this all really mean? The money is undeniably huge. The innovation is frankly staggering. But biotech is inherently risky, isn't it? Adding AI doesn't magically remove the fundamental challenges of biology and clinical trials. If VCs are pouring in $60 billion, are they truly betting on a fundamentally de-risked process now? Or does this massive influx of cash just risk inflating an eventual failure bubble?
That is absolutely the right question to ask. And one of the primary risks, especially if you're an investor looking at publicly traded AI biotech stocks, remains the basic financial and clinical risks.
Right.
Companies building these clinical AI solutions, especially diagnostics or therapeutics, require massive ongoing funding. They need it for validation studies, for running large, expensive clinical trials, and this leads to a consistently high burn rate. These companies just hemorrhage cash for years before they might ever generate significant revenue.
Which means more funding rounds, more share dilution for early investors.
Exactly. And then there's the high-stakes nature of the work itself. Clinical trial outcomes can send a stock soaring overnight, or they can cause its valuation to completely collapse just as quickly. The sources point to Schrödinger, which is a well-regarded publicly traded company known for its computational platform, but they had to discontinue one of their clinical programs, SGR-2921, after 2 patient deaths occurred in the trial. Now, despite the underlying strength of their software platform, that kind of clinical failure causes a sharp, brutal financial repricing. Biology risk is still paramount.
Okay, so the biology risk hasn't vanished. What about the AI-specific risks? We touched on data earlier.
Yes, then we face the fundamental issue of data challenges. AI, as we know, is only as good as the data it's trained on. It relies entirely on having access to clean, consistent, high-quality, well-labeled data.
But healthcare data isn't like that, is it?
Not usually, no. The World Economic Forum found something staggering, that 97% of all global data produced by hospitals annually goes completely unused for research or advanced analytics.
97%. That is just an unbelievable amount of wasted potential. Why? Why is that data going unused?
Well, because medical records are often incredibly messy. They're siloed in different hospital systems, often incomplete, stored in wildly disparate formats. Think scanned images, doctors' handwritten notes, structured lab values, free text reports. This scattered, inconsistent nature makes it incredibly difficult for AI models to deliver reliable results without immense, costly effort up front, just cleaning, standardizing, and harmonizing that data.
Which explains Tempus's $11 billion valuation again.
Yeah.
They tackled that mess.
Precisely. Their value is largely built on having done that hard, unglamorous data work at scale. It's a huge barrier to entry.
Okay, so data is a massive hurdle. This complexity must also be reflected in the regulatory landscape, right?
Oh, absolutely. Regulatory oversight and transparency remain a top challenge for every single startup in this space. Getting FDA approval for an AI-driven diagnostic or therapeutic, or even just meeting compliance standards like HIPAA for handling patient data, is incredibly time-consuming and very costly, especially when you're dealing with novel algorithms applied to sensitive health information.
Is the FDA keeping up?
They're trying. The FDA's Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, known as CDER, is working hard to adapt to the pace of innovation. They reported seeing over 500 submissions that included AI components just between 2016 and 2023.
Wow, 500 already.
Yeah, so to manage this increasing flow and try to create some consistency, they established the CDER AI Council in 2024. Its job is to consolidate and coordinate all the AI-related activities across the agency.
That coordination sounds critical because regulators need a standardized playbook, don't they? Otherwise, it's chaos for the companies.
Exactly. And they are rapidly moving toward defining clearer guidelines. They published a draft guidance document called Considerations for the Use of Artificial Intelligence to Support Regulatory Decision-Making for Drug and Biological Products, just in January 2025.
Okay, so the guidance is starting to emerge.
It signals that regulators are actively creating a clear, dedicated pathway. But it remains constantly evolving, and it requires huge internal compliance resources from the startups just to keep track and meet the requirements. It's a major cost center.
And within that regulatory challenge, there's also a core technical hurdle that worries regulators and clinicians too, right? The black box problem.
Yes, the black box issue. Many of the most powerful deep learning models, the ones driving a lot of this innovation, lack easy interpretability. You put complex data in one end, you get an output, maybe a diagnosis, maybe a drug candidate, but it can be very difficult, sometimes impossible, for a human clinician or even a regulator to fully understand or explain why the AI made that specific decision or recommendation.
Which makes it hard to trust, especially in high-stakes situations.
Exactly. It raises critical concerns about transparency, accountability, and the ability to troubleshoot if something goes wrong. How do you validate something you can't fully understand?
And finally, alongside the technical and regulatory hurdles, we absolutely have to consider the crucial need for responsible AI, particularly around ethics.
The World Health Organization has been quite vocal, highlighting the critical risk of bias baked into AI algorithms if the models are not trained on data that is truly representative of all populations.
What does that mean in practice?
Well, imagine if a diagnostic AI model is trained primarily on data collected from, say, white males in urban centers in the U.S. That model might perform poorly or even systematically misdiagnose patients from other ethnicities, different age groups, women, or people in rural geographies where healthcare access and data might look different.
So it could actually worsen health disparities.
It absolutely could, leading directly to unequal healthcare outcomes. Ensuring fairness and equity in the training data and transparency about potential biases isn't just crucial for ethical reasons, it's essential for the clinical accuracy and the global commercial viability of these AI products. Building trust requires addressing bias head-on.
Wow, this has been a really monumental deep dive into this $60 billion AI healthcare startup boom. I think the key takeaway for me is just the sheer scale of the funding surge, especially that $30 billion invested in just the last 3 years alone. It feels like proof that AI has truly moved from being a futuristic concept to becoming a core, fundable engine of medical progress.
I think that's exactly right, and it feels like a dual-pronged revolution happening simultaneously. The first prong is transforming drug discovery, where AI is bringing radical speed and cost savings, allowing companies to compress those development timelines from many years down into months, potentially.
Yeah.
And the second prong is transforming patient care itself, where AI is improving diagnostics, streamlining workflows, reducing physician burnout, and ultimately boosting accessibility and precision for patients.
We've really dug into the specific mechanisms driving this, from AlphaFold, achieving near-perfect protein structure prediction, which is just mind-blowing, to Chimera's ambient AI slashing clinical documentation time by that incredible 81%. The innovation is tangible. It's happening right now across the entire healthcare spectrum. But as we discussed, it's happening despite these massive ongoing risks associated with data quality, regulatory complexity, and fundamental biology.
Yeah, the risks are still very real, but perhaps the real underlying shift here is almost philosophical. Driven by the new capabilities that AI enables, AI seems to be accelerating us towards a future where treatments have the potential to actually solve diseases, not just manage them chronically.
Which leads us perfectly into our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider today. Maybe the biggest shift here isn't just making treatments faster or cheaper.
Mhm.
Maybe it's enabling a fundamental move away from managing chronic diseases with lifelong drugs, which, let's be honest, has been the dominant, highly profitable business model for big pharma for decades,
Hmm.
towards offering potential one-time curative treatments like highly personalized cell therapies or gene therapies that AI could help design and deliver more effectively.
Right.
So if AI truly accelerates this trend, making personalized, potentially curative treatments more feasible and scalable, should the fundamental value of a healthcare company in the future be based on generating revenue from repeat prescriptions and managing chronic conditions? Or should it be based on their ability to actually eliminate the disease entirely? You are watching the entire industry grapple with that fundamental multi-trillion-dollar question right now.